Everything around us is shaped due to the center of gravity. I'm able to support this bat with my finger due to the center of gravity. A building's weight is supported by the center of gravity. Even a seesaw is supported by the center of gravity. As you can see, life as we know it would be completely different without this basic physics concept. What is a single point in a body toward which every particle of matter is gravitationally attracted? Anybody? Anybody? Hey, look what I'm doing. These are called plumb lines. The plumb lines are extended from one corner of an object to the middle or its base. Now you can draw two or more plumb lines to find the actual center of the geometric center of an object. If this object was a bit more, strong, I could balance it in the middle with my finger, the geometric center. But that's what a plumb line is, and also a plumb line extended to the center of the object. As you can see, the center of gravity is all around us. I am able to stand because of it. My center of gravity falls between my feet. You can do a lot of neat things with the center of gravity. One is that you can actually balance two pins on one another, like so, because of the two pins. Center of gravity falls below the edge of this pin, falls below here because of the two pins. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is, Keith.
As you can see, all my force is acting downward toward the center of the Earth. Because the Earth is so huge, virtually all the force acting down are parallel to each other. We'll use this as the resultant force, or say a plumb line. As you can see, it drops squarely between my feet. The more my feet are together, the harder time the plumb line has going into the center. Now, if I move my body, say this way, I'm unbalanced because the plumb line goes away from my feet. If I stand up like this, it's easy to see that I have good balance. The Earth pulling all of us toward the center will eventually kill us all. As you can see, balance is a huge part of the center of gravity. Now, here's Mr. Miyagi to tell us more about balance.
Hi. Lesson about balance. Yeah. A lesson not just karate only. Lesson for whole life. Whole life have a balance. Everything be better.
As you can clearly see, the center of gravity dictates our very lives. We must always keep in balance.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Roy Pride, and I'm known in the physics world as the Professor of Projectiles. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Projectiles. A dictionary defines a projectile as a body projected by external force and continuing in motion by its own inertia. Is that right? Let's check this clip to find out.
Here's lunch!
Ah, hi, you're back. That's a wonderful clip that I like to show all my students. Now you know, what you just saw, according to Newton's first law, is impossible, because we didn't see any outside force acting on the meat. What should have happened is after they threw the meat out the window, it should have flown in a straight line directly into the sky. One force we haven't taken into account though, is gravity. I drew up this little diagram real quick to show you that this man in this little box has two really big spheres, and he throws one of them and drops one of them at the same time. Now, the only force acting on this sphere is the force of gravity, and you can see it's accelerating as it goes down. However, this sphere is also, gravity is acting on it at an equal rate as this sphere, but it's also moving at a constant speed in this direction, to the direction he threw it in. So you see, at every interval, they're in the same height, but this one is moving in a constant direction this way. Over breakfast, my colleagues and I discussed the path of a projectile's motion. I worked out this little diagram. The velocity of a projectile can be worked out into vertical and horizontal motions throughout the entire path of its path. Now, you see in the beginning, it has a initial velocity, and right when, as I said before, right when it leaves, gravity is already working on it. So as you see, while v of x, the velocity in this direction, is remaining constant, v of y is first slowing down when it reaches the peak of its path. V of y is equal to 0, and then v of y starts to be negative as it goes down. With these v of x and v of y, once you know these, you can figure out the time it takes for the object to travel through its path. And by the way, the time is equal from the time it takes the beginning till the peak of its path, and from the peak till the time it reaches the ground again. The time is equal. You can figure out that time. You can figure out the distance it's going to travel in the v of x direction, or the x direction, and you can figure out how high it's going to go in the y direction. Very interesting if you ask me. As you can see, projectiles play an integral role in our society. Without projectiles, we couldn't launch missiles at other countries, play football, throw meat, or even flip a coin. What do you know? Heads. This has been Roy Price, and this heartfelt presentation has been done for Mr. Palagudo's class. I would like to thank Keith Wiggins, my cameraman, and my associates, my family. I would also like to thank the entire third hour physics honors Mr. Palagudo's class for making my third hour every day excellent. Thank you.
Yeah! My name is Professor Keith Wiggins, motor car extraordinaire and electric car personality. Alright? Here I have conclusive evidence that my motor car can go speeds exceeding or at 1 meter per second. This CD will tell us all. This motor car has shown me through various experiments what the best kind of gearing is. I have found that, my hypothesis is that the lower the gear ratio is on a vehicle, the better velocity you will get from this vehicle. Thank you. Accessing our CD file, we have found these various gear combinations. This is all on the computer, mind you. This combination of gears shows that the motor is on the big gear and it turns the small gear with the axle and the wheel. This shows that there's 1.2 revolutions of the motor for every 1 revolution of the wheels. Going to our next thing, we see that this next gearing gives the motor to the small gear and the axle and the wheel, it gives 4.8 revolutions of the motor for every 1 revolution of the wheels.
Hey, darlings.
This chart shows that for the big gear against the motor, you get 6.2 revolutions of the motor for every 1 revolution of the wheels. We have another gearing here. It's amazing the way this works. The small gear is turning the big gear, which is attached to the axle, causing 24.8 revolutions of the motor for every 1 revolution of the wheels. An amazing find.
Wow!
We have another gearing here, simple gearing. There's the small gear turning the big gear attached to the axle and the wheel. 1 revolution of the motor for 1 revolution of the wheel. What have I found through these various experiments? First, let's go over the data. We tested this car on a 2-meter track. What we got was surprisingly surprising. For 6.2 revolutions of the motor for every 1 revolution of the wheel, the time for 2 meters was 3 seconds, coming out with a velocity of 0.667 meters per second. Incredible. 4.8 revolutions of the motor, you got 2 seconds. That came out to 1 meter per second. We're getting better all the time. 1.2, not so good. 3 seconds for every 2 meters, which came out to 0.667 meters per second. 1 revolution of the motor came out to 4 seconds for 2 meters, which was 0.5 meters per second. The last one, 24.8 revolutions of the motor, came out with a time of 9 seconds, which was eventually calculated into the velocity of 0.222 meters per second. I wish to point out that the best gear ratio for a flat surface I have found is 4.8 revolutions of the motor for every 1 revolution of the wheels. How did I find this? Let's find out. Let's look at this chart, for example, on our multimedia tour. First, we took these revolutions of the motor. We took the smallest revolutions and we saw where they came out, about 0.5 meters per second. We took our data and we flew up this graph until we got to 4.8 revolutions of the motor for every 1 revolution of the wheels. What did that give us? 1 meter per second. As you can see, we have gone up, reached a climax, and then have fallen sharply and semi-sharply down as we get to a bigger gear ratio. This graph has been provided you by the people of Mexico.
Mexicans don't know how to make graphs.
World is a vampire.
What have we learned? This CD can carry 70,000 pictures of pornography or 2 million bits of information. Fortunately, we only needed about a micro inch of this CD to cover the information that we just covered. But let's not say that our information that we just covered is not important. For what I have found is that my hypothesis, though intelligently planned, was not entirely correct. I said that the low gear ratio would cause a higher velocity. Well, that might be true had we a more powerful motor, you might say. But power isn't everything. Intelligence is everything. What I found was that 4.8 was the best. 4.8 revolutions of the motor, 1 revolution of the wheels. And if you wish to make comments about my way of doing things, you may take it up with Roy Price. This video was made possible by generous contributions from Roy Price, produced by Keith Wiggins, Seth Grossman. I would like to thank Mr. Pellegrino and the class of 1996, J.B. Terravella.
Same time, making personnel think. I am the Miracle Man. I make the impossible possible. I am so awesome. Watch this. Stop the show. Stop the show. I'm going to prove that the Miracle Man is nothing but a cheap trickster. You fiend! I'm no ordinary fiend. I'm Professor of Physics Roy Price. You may know me from such films as Roy Price, Professor of Projectiles, or Just a Fraction of Friction. In any case, I plan to prove that anybody that knows anything about physics can do that exact same thing. All you need is knowledge of these 3 key terms: kinetic energy, energy in motion, potential energy, stored energy, and elasticity, the ability of an object to return to its original form. This cylinder operates on the same principle as this rubber band. The rubber band's elasticity allows my hand to give it an external force and stretch it out. Because the rubber band is elastic and inclined to return to its original form, it now has potential energy. When I release the rubber band, the potential energy turns right into kinetic energy and the rubber band goes flying in that direction. The cylinder operates in the same way. My hand applies external force to the cylinder, which gives it the kinetic energy to move forward. While the cylinder is moving forward, the rubber band inside the cylinder is gaining potential energy by a wing inside twisting it around. This potential energy will turn into kinetic energy when the cylinder's inertia stops it from moving, and the rubber band's elasticity causes it to turn back into its original form. The potential energy turns into kinetic energy, and the cylinder starts moving in the other direction. While it starts moving in the other direction, the rubber band returns to its original form, but the cylinder still has inertia moving it in this direction, causing the rubber band to twist again. The same process happens again. The rubber band gets twisted, it wants to return to its original form because of elasticity, and it goes in this cycle. Okay, Professor Prize. So you've solved my little trick. So you're a genius. Let's see your little physics solve this. But you know, physics can't solve that. And it's a good thing too. Because I don't have to solve it. It just so happens that I'm part of the class of 1996, seniors, graduating in 8 days.